Welcome to the Home Workers Network, the show that is all about creating an engaged home workers community that shares best practice and leadership so that together we can grow and develop both ourselves and our businesses. Now, today we are talking about New Year, New Start, and I'm joined by Marcus Boswell. Hello, Marcus. Happy New Year to you.
You too, my friend. You too.
Yeah, good one. You have a good one over Christmas and that?
I certainly did. Very, very busy, very, very noisy, much too much eating, all of the stuff.
Absolutely. Excellent. And we're also joined by Philip Croshaw. Hello, mate. How are you?
Hello, guys. I'm very well, thank you. All
Happy
refreshed, ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, you had a good rest and all that, yeah?
Yeah, recharged the batteries.
Fantastic. Now, every week, we investigate the ideas and issues surrounding working from home. And we've talked a lot about our emotional state of mind and also some tactical ways to handle ourselves and be more comfortable with it. Now, today, we thought that we would talk about some of the ways that we can organize ourselves. We've all heard of New Year's resolutions. I've made 2 New Year's resolutions. Do you want me to tell you what they are now? Because I think it might actually get the show off to a good start.
Oh, why not?
Okay, so my New Year's resolutions are to get healthier and fitter. Okay, that's the first one. And the reason for that, from a business perspective, is, some of the work that I do can be quite physical and demanding. And the older I get and the unfitter I get, the harder that work becomes. So I just want to get fitter. I want to be able to, have more energy. So that's one of them. And the other one is to become paperless. Now, I think that Marcus has inspired me, to do that. And I thought that before I met Marcus, that I was already quite paperless. I thought I was well on my way to being paperless. I would say I was probably about 80% there, which is a lot more than a lot of people that I know. But I want to get that to sort of 98% to 100% paperless. And I've already started with that. And thanks to Marcus, by sort of renewing my love with Evernote, I think that I'm well on my way to forming some really good habits using Evernote and becoming paperless. So they're my New Year's resolutions. And I think that both of those will help me with my business and working from home. So, Marcus, what about you?
Well, first of all, congratulations on 2 things from my perspective for you. One is taking that step to actually tripping over the fitness line, if that's where you want to be. And 2 is being sensible enough to lock into Evernote, because I don't know. I mean, it doesn't matter what productivity system you use. Whatever works for you is best. But for me, that just made sense. And I would say over the last year or 2, it's really come into its own. So, and that, and many, many more. And as I've said to you in the past, when I'm looking at new tech and all these different things, strangely, I don't so much now, but I certainly did measure most things that I found by how they integrate with Evernote. It just became really important, and I'm finding the same with other things. But as far as New Year's resolutions for me, it's an interesting one. I have professed for many years that I don't believe in New Year's resolutions, not bothered about them. Reasons why are for the reasons of the show, that people essentially tend to come up with some newfangled thing at the beginning of the year and very quickly forget about it. I'm bothered by the amount of people in my gym because they're all in my way, and then they dissipate over time, including myself. So I am going to steal something that I heard another productivity chap talking about, and I liked it, and it was about having a theme for the year. So I'm going to adopt a theme, and he actually adopts a monthly theme, which probably works best for him. I don't think I'm at that stage, but I think that a theme for me, rather than just saying I don't believe in New Year's resolutions, which is probably a bit crap, because I am, I'm into improvement. But my theme is to stick to what I'm good at and to do that first, right? So you guys have heard me talk about workflow a lot, and I want to start talking about habits more, because what are workflows if they're not just good habits? And so I really want to kind of lock into a better way to manage my habits, whether that's waking, whether that's exercise, whether that's walking, the whole 9 yards, which reminds me I need to go put my Fitbit on and get my groove on a little later on.
But when you say habits, you mean habit forming, I suppose. Because habits, you know, when you say the word habit, in most people's minds, it conjures up bad things.
Well, this is the problem, isn't it?
And we've all got bad habits. But habits can be good things, can't they?
Yeah, and I'm not even interested in changing my bad habits so much as just getting control of habits in general and being happy whether they are good or bad, to be mindful of them and to know, oh, hold on a minute, that's a bad habit right there. Or, you know what, if I do this, that's a good habit and that will probably put me in better stead. Hey, Julian, how are you, man?
Very well.
Yeah, so it's all good. I'm just, for me personally, this is a year of locking down my habits and really figuring out what I did really well last year, doing much more of that and doing a hell of a lot less of the things that I didn't do very well of. And that means getting a little bit more sleep.
Fair enough. That's not a bad thing. Now, Philip Croshaw, what about you, fella?
Right. Well, I'm going to start off with a story, actually, on this. But it's more a story around... It's a short one.
Yeah, he's 5'6".
Once upon a time, I didn't know these three languages.
The good old days.
Yeah, it's just a very quick story, and it's about a little dog that's lying on a porch in Midwest, and the white picket fence and the corn's blowing in the wind, and the little dog's whining like crazy, and another little dog's walking past and says to the little dog on the path, "Why are you whining like that?" And the little dog on the porch says, "Because I'm lying on a nail and it hurts." So the other little dog, in doggy language, of course, says, "Well, get off the nail then." And the little dog on the porch says, "It's not hurting enough yet." And I think that's basically links to motivation. And I think that why New Year's resolutions don't happen is because that's what people do at New Year. So I must do one. And the motivation level to do that on a scale of 1 to 10 is too low. So therefore, when it gets tough, and it will, like Marcus says, when he's in the gym and he's on his 4th press up and he's ready for needs oxygen. Oh, that's probably more like me, mate. Actually, then it gets hard, but because the motivation's not really there, and those motivations change all the time. So, if, for example, you go to the doctors and the doctor says, "Look, if you don't get your weight down by 1/2 stone in the next 6 months, you could have some serious health problems." Your motivation suddenly goes right up there, and as a result, you'll probably do what it takes to get it. Whereas it's New Year, so I must make a resolution, and the motivation just isn't there in order to see it through. So I just think that's a key one. In terms of my New Year's resolutions, probably got 3 very quickies. First one is that we're relaunching an online digital magazine that I did a few years ago called Tweeting Times. Really excited about that.
How do I subscribe, Phil?
Well, it's an invite only, mate. I'm afraid. So
I'll send you a copy, DG.
Okay, mate. Thank you.
I'll tell you as soon as I'm ready. I'll give you guys the heads up as soon as I've got something, and I'll show you. But I'm interested in talking to you guys about that anyway, because in the content, I'm looking for interviews and articles and features from people, and I always start with the people I know. So have a think about, I could do an interview with you for it. Think about an angle, could do something on Homeworkers Network. When I did it back in the day, which is about 2011, 2012, we got about 84,000 views. And the only reason it didn't carry on is we got distracted, divorces, moving, you name it. And that was the only reason. But we've all got our kind of act back together again now, so we're going to use it. So I'd love you guys to be involved in that.
Absolutely. And I think it's interesting, something you've just said there, inadvertently. And I think that's quite, when it comes to technology, things move so quickly. You just said back in the day, and it was only 2011. And that's actually a long time in technology, isn't it?
It absolutely is. It was at the start of Twitter. So it was called Tweeting Times and it was linked to Twitter. So, of course, and we had video interviews in it as well, which was what made it pretty unique. But
we're losing Phil. I don't know if you guys can hear him, but we've lost him. Yeah. You can't. Okay, I'll tell you what. Let me, if Phil, if you can still hear us, refresh your browser, please, and come back in.
I used to say to people, it's linked
to
Twitter.
We'll get on to Julian. Hello, mate. How are you?
Absolutely average. Yourself?
Yeah, good. It's been a while since we've seen you. I know you've been busy with your new project that you're working on. So we've not seen you for a couple of shows, which is absolutely great that it's going so well. And you've also had a bit of sad news in your life as well, haven't you?
Yeah, unfortunately, my mother passed away before Christmas. So on the Monday before Christmas week, on that Christmas week, we buried her. So it wasn't a happy time, but you know, that's life. I'm afraid, and you know, I have a very simple sort of mechanism when it comes to this. As long as your grandparents die, then your mum and dad die, then you die. I haven't got a problem with it.
Yeah,
it's when it does that I've got a problem with. And you know, God forbid I say a prayer every night that my children are fine. So I can cope with my mum and dad dying, and I'm next. But it's when it breaks that rule I don't like it. So it is what it is, and we plow on. But yeah, the business side of things is going really well. The conference now starts 3 weeks on Monday. We've got some top level speakers from the sports world, and it's going really well. And the interesting part was, and I sort of touched base with Marcus, is that, you know, and again, part of my New Year's resolutions is that, you know, you can have all the best laid plans in the world, but they don't avoid contact. And the moment you put something out into the market, or you think you've got everything down pat, then my New Year's resolution is always to be aware that you need to revise those plans. And everybody promises you the world in terms of software, IT, and everything else. And the reality is, until you actually start putting things through it, you don't actually see what's going on. And then all of a sudden, you seem to be getting that deathly radio silence. But things are moving on great, that side of things. It's funny you should talk about a dog, Phil. I don't know where mine is. We bought a dog. Just before Christmas. If starting the business and everything else going on and wasn't enough, we actually bought a dog. And he do you know what? He's brought an amazing dynamic to the house. My wife didn't want him in any way, shape, or form, but now she wants him more than me, and he's just treated like royalty. He gets more than.
What breed is he?
He's what's called a Cavachon.
I was looking for him.
Reggie, come on.
Yeah, Reggie. See, I have a mantra in my life. Now, we grew up with dogs in our house. And my dad was a trainer. My uncle was a breeder. You know, we've grown up with dogs. But I have a mantra, and that is, if you can't teach it to wipe its own arse, I don't want it. Right? Because
well, funny you should say that. I was actually going to bring him in to show him wiping his own arse. But unfortunately, I think he's used all his toilet roll. Not Reggie, not kitchen roll. Stuck in the toilet. I told you that. Jesus Christ. No, but you know, do you know what though? He's 12 weeks. He's 12 weeks old, and he is absolutely first class. We took him. We live by the sea. We took him to Barry Island. I know we're digressing a little bit, but we took him to Barry Island yesterday, which is like obviously famous for. I don't know if you used to watch Gavin and Stacey. And we took him on the beach, and he was like Mike Tyson, this Cavachon. He's this big. He's just a ball of fluff. And I took him off the lead, and he was prowling around like Mike Tyson, and he went bounding down the beach. Then all of a sudden, a dog turned round and came towards him. Well, if he did, he spanned 360, compounding back at the beach, and leapt literally into my arms. Was crying on my neck. I thought, Jesus, you know, you're not very tough at all. But no, do you know what though? The reason I got him is because they're very good. And you can take them out for walks. I have an hour an extra exercise now every day. We walk 3 miles a day. You know, he does put a bit of discipline into your life, but that's not one of my New Year's resolutions.
Now, that's what I was just going to ask you. What are your New Year's resolutions? Well, if you try and work them into the sort of home working thing,
I've got two. The first one is interesting because Phil was on about motivation, and my first New Year's resolution is never ever to go on a Segway hoverboard again, because on New Year's Eve, I went on one, and I ended up in Manchester North Hospital.
No, you didn't.
For 2 days, severely pulling all the muscles in my back and down my right leg, and my whole back went into spasm as I was absolutely intoxicated. Went straight through my friend's Christmas tree, ended up upside down, and with an ambulance with flashing lights and everything. So, first one is don't go on a Segway. That's my first one.
Just before you go into your second one, Phil, Julian, sorry. They on Twitter moments on Christmas Day.
Mike Tyson.
There was a whole thing about videos of people who were injuring themselves on these hoverboards.
Well, you wouldn't believe it, honestly. I was doing all the tricks, I did all the turns, I did all the spins and everything, and then I tried to get off. And my friend lives in this old converted barn, and so he's got like hard parkway flooring as well. And you slight movement on him, and you move. And as I went to get off, I put too much movement on the back, which pushes the thing forwards. It went forwards. I went up, landed in the Christmas tree, and it was a good job I did land in the Christmas tree, because it did break my fall and meant that I wasn't seriously injured in hospital. So
I'd be very interested to know how many cases the NHS saw of hoverboard-related injuries over the festive period. I bet it runs into the hundreds.
Well, the ambulance man that picked me up said it was his third over Christmas. Wow. But he did say that he's picked up more kids on new bikes. Right. So there is. He was trying to balance it. But just finally on this part is that my friend lives right out in the country, and there's 1.5 miles, okay, of like old potted road that you need to go along to get to the other road. So as you can imagine, being in the back of an ambulance, which isn't best known for shock absorbers, with a back in spasm, just doing this.
Very painful.
But this is not to be missed. My wife was sat opposite me with the biggest smile I've ever seen her have in the 23 years of marriage every time we hit a pothole. Wow. And she just statistically just kept looking at me going, one of those really,
yourself right.
One of those real grains of cheese. But my real New Year's resolution, there's the big one, which is structure. The problem with me is sometimes that I have a million and one ideas, and every single one of them are fantastic, but I've got to be more structured in terms of the way in which I do things, and even within the business. And that's one of the reasons why I'm talking about software and everything else. And I'm not going to big them up yet, because we've only just started looking at it. And if you have your top tech tip, I can come across to it. But what I love about what people purport they do and what they don't do. And yesterday, you've got all these people, like we're looking at email automation, business management, project management, etc., and we want this one-stop shop, if there is such a thing. And I sent up a balloon yesterday saying on my Twitter that I'm looking for these services. Now, you would have thought, if you are a social media, email automation, sales generation company, I would have been inundated, because as soon as I said I'm looking for this service, maybe that people would have found me. One company, because it was a test I wanted to do myself, one company out of all of the companies in the world actually found me on Twitter and started talking to me. That company I spent all day yesterday with and most of this morning with, and it's an amazing solution. It's hugely cost effective, and it does everything that I want it to do.
What is it?
And more. It's a company called InTouch.
Right.
Cool. UK based company. Never really heard of them. It's a very simple software. It's hugely intuitive. It does everything that we need it to do. We need it to have files as file storage. We need it to do. We needed it for task management. We need it for email automation. We need it for a CRM system, contact management system.
So is that what it is, basically?
It does everything. It does. Right. Well, it's more than that, to be honest, because it's now essential. It's going to be a central pool, because we've got offices here and in Australia, and we work from home, so we've got other offices. So I can log in there now, and the stuff it does for you is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. It's all task driven. It's project. It's just fantastic. And you know the best part about it? For 4 users and 100,000 emails a year, it's costing me £99 a month.
Bloody hell, that's good, isn't it?
Unbelievable.
Very good.
So I've probably taken 20 minutes, but I haven't spoken.
No. Well, we've not seen you for such a long time, so it's a pleasure. It really is. Now, so we've talked about New Year's resolution. Now,
Can I ask a quick question while you're thinking about that, Paul? How many of you?
go
How many of you even remember your last New Year's resolution, if you made one? You can.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't make one actually. I don't think. No.
I don't know. I don't.
Well, this
tend
is
to make
exactly
them
my
usually.
point from earlier on, and I have to say, I mean, I do have, I have got a method of measuring this year very, very easily. So, you know, you have your personal goals and then you have your financial goals and all this kind of thing. So, yeah, I mean, I will be able to really tell, but I think it's just interesting when you think about it, how many people even stick to these New Year's resolutions, because do you remember last one you did? So with that in mind, you know, if we're going to talk about New Year, New Start, you really do want to actually achieve your goal. If it's a realistic goal that you set yourself now, I think back to my habit scenario, habit forming positive habits, you know, building on success, is to ask yourself if you really are going to stay on point and how you're going to make that accountable. So there.
Well, sorry, go on, Phil.
Do you know what? Sorry, mate. All I was going to say was that one of the ways that I think you can improve the chances is to share what your intent is, especially on Facebook, and actually not just share it, but actually say to people, you know, I want you to police me. I want you to be my conscience, my nag. You know, if especially those that are you're more close to. So if I was doing something, I might say to you three guys, right, okay, guys, I want you to nag the crap out of me. Ask me every month when we have our, you know, when we have a session, ask me if I've moved it forward. Because I think that the pressure's much greater when you've got to be kind of answerable or accountable to other people, even if it's just
Chloe,
getting
you're
asked.
online, I see. So we'll discuss my offline goal, and you can beat me up about it as we go along. I think it's akin to one of yours. So just throw that out.
I mean, I think that certainly one of my. I think that one of my New Year's resolutions. You weren't with us, Julian, when we started, so I don't know if you heard them. But basically, my two New Year's resolutions. One is to get fitter and healthier, and the other one is to to try and be as paperless as I possibly can be. If I was at 98% being paperless, I'd be happy with that. And Marcus is helping with me that. And with that particular goal, I think I'm already well on my way to achieving that. The fitness one is much more difficult. And I know that you were even long before Christmas when we first met. You were into your fitness and trying to leave it. You'd stop drinking.
Yeah.
You know, how's all that going? And
fitness is fine, but I was pissed when I fell off the Segway, so it pretty much threw that one in the hoop.
Right. Well, you know, we all like our. There are some things that we just can't give up. Mine is food.
Yeah.
I've given up everything. I've given up drinking. I've given up smoking. I've given up all the things in life that are bad for me, except for food.
I'm not a doctor, but I wouldn't advocate you give up food, mine, because I think it's essential to live. It's probably the type of food that you're eating is more of the issue than what. But no, I think what Marcus makes a really good point. I think when you come up with a New Year's resolution, it generally is a soundbite, and it's not really something that you're really going to strive towards. And when you're trying to do those things, like anything within business, you need to supplement that and surround it with things that's going to help you achieve what you need to achieve. And some of it, obviously, all of these things starts with mindset and culture, because if you haven't got the right mindset and you haven't got the right culture, it's not going to happen. But for me to be more structured, I've spent the last 3 days absolutely looking at everything that I do, putting it down into a sort of a workflow and looking at it as on a big sheet of paper with me in the middle. What things do I need to implement within my life to be able to give me that structure that I need to be able to move forward? And trying to find that answer, and a lot of it was to do with software and everything else. And again, I hope and I pray that I've now found that answer after spending a day and a half working on it, that it does everything that I need it to do to be able to give me that. So I need a snapshot at any single moment to be able to look at my business, what I'm doing, my calendar, my email campaign, my sales funnels, my social media and everything, to be able to look at that any 1 minute and go, right, what's working, what's not working, and then to be able to structure, rather than me just sitting here coming up with another 15 ideas and trying to implement something into a workflow that's already bottlenecking.
Right. Yes.
DJ, just to kind of pick up on what you were saying about health and fitness. very quickly, on a scale of 1 to 10, how serious are you about
10.
getting fitter and healthier? Go.
Well, he has been running.
Okay. So the next thing then is fitter and healthier is very general. What the hell does that mean? So you need to be smart goal in it. So by what date? What will it look like? How will you measure it? And then commit it to us, and then we will become your nag.
So a couple of things. First of all, I've got a short-term goal, and I mentioned this off-air to Marcus earlier on. My short-term goal, because I didn't have a proper short-term goal until I went for my first run the day before yesterday. And when I realised I had the heart rate monitor on and all the rest of it, so I can imagine.
All the gear, no idea.
All the gear, no idea, exactly. And so I had the heart rate monitor on because I wanted to sort of, measure what was going on and all the rest of it, see how many calories I'm burning. And I realised after 150 yards of running, I was already nearly dead. Right. And I had to stop, start. And it turns out a friend of mine sent me this.
And that was downhill.
Yeah. On a skateboard. A lot of friends. A friend of mine does a lot of these, like fun run type things and does training leading up to them, and does these run clubs. And she said to me, one of the things that they tell you to do is to run for a minute, walk for a minute, run for a minute, walk for a minute, to sort of build up your stamina and all the rest of it, which is what I did today on my second run, which was today. And I did manage to achieve more doing that. So my goal is, to answer your question, Phil, in the short term, is to be able to run for half an hour without having to stop.
And it's small goals, right? I mean, that's the way to achieve anything. It's those small goals.
Get it up to that, build it up to that point where I can actually...
a cautionary tale, Paul. You will remember, most of you, who sort of... joined my little fitness journey when I was trying to kill the daddy belly, which I'm technically still trying to do, but perhaps less passionately than I was.
I bet my daddy belly's bigger than yours, fella.
I'll probably agree. But I went to the gym and I started these insanity classes, which really kind of was insanity because it was great and I loved it and it changed my mindset and all those good things that went with it. But I've knackered myself. My knees are giving me problems, and I had a groin strain that I think has now jumped to my back. And it's, I'm really feeling it right now. Maybe this is no pain, no gain, so I'll see. But to your point, Julian, I mean, I don't have a dog. I'm not a dog guy, but I will continue to do my walking, and I'm going to do a lot more of it. And I think the Fitbit, again, has been a real game changer on that. And I recommend you get one, Paul, actually, because even if you're not running, you can at least start to measure how active you are versus sort of being sat down. I mean, right now I'm standing. I'll do that a lot more, partly because my back's killing me, but also just really to be a bit more active. So, it's the little things. It's those little things that build up to the bigger habits that will help you, I think, to achieve what you're doing.
I'm no fitness expert, although you wouldn't believe many years ago I did play professional sport. But I think the key thing for me is my mate started doing fitness now. He's been doing it for 2 months. I've been doing it for 6 months. I lost 3.5 stone in weight, and I played
You do. I'll tell you what. You've lost weight.
I have. Yeah.
Since I've known you, which has been for how long? 12 weeks? 14
probably.
weeks. And I can see on your face that you have definitely lost weight.
And I always play in the Christmas football match. And this year I played. I wasn't even out of breath. Scored a hat trick. Things were back on the game. So I really enjoyed it. But that's 6 months of me doing stuff. The point I always make about exercises, and it's always the one where, January everyone wants to get healthy and fit or whatever. But even doing some form of exercise more than
whatever
you do,
it is. Yeah.
whatever it is a bonus, and it's something. The only thing that I always get concerned about is people think that they're gonna, they do too much too soon, which has a detrimental effect, which then puts them off doing anything going forward. The best, and Marcus touched upon it, for me anyway, the best form of exercise that I do at the moment is I go on a bike. And if you consider 6 months ago, without boring people with stats, but 6 months ago, 10 kilometers, I was doing it in 23 minutes and 54 seconds on a level 7 on one of the exercise bikes. I'm now sub 18 minutes. So you can see if you, and I haven't gone to 15 kilometers, I'm going to 20 kilometers. I'm just trying to be more intense in the things that I'm trying to do. So if you just set yourself something you can achieve and then try and better the things within that, it's a lot easier. But walking, I'm very fortunate to live on the coast. I walk my dog 3 miles a day now. And you know what? You always, and you do it at a good pace. You should do it at a pace where you can just about talk. And it makes all that difference. But again, you've got to have structure, you've got to have discipline, because the key to anything, whether it's health, fitness, business, or whatever, is consistency. And we all start in January and we all finish in January.
Well, I hope that in our first show of February, you're not saying to me, how's the fitness going, Deitchy? And I say, oh no, I've knocked it on the head. I hope that's not the case.
Get yourself a bike.
I think the thing what's lucky about us is that we all are regularly in contact and can hold each other accountable in different ways. So I think that's great. Looks like we've
let me just let this person in here, Fran MacArthur. Hello, Fran. Can you hear us?
Just taking a second to log in there. That's why. Yeah, I think it's really important, Julian, that you are able to have those have that sort of mindset where you can look back and measure what you're up to and see where you get on. And what do they say? What's not measured?
It doesn't get done, does it? It doesn't, and again, you need to reward yourself. One of the things that I make sure that I do when I go to the gym, however long I spend in the gym, I afford myself in the spa.
Yes, me too.
So if I do an hour in the gym, I do an hour in the spa. If I do 20 minutes in the gym, I'm only allowed 20 minutes in the spa. Right. So whatever I do, I always reward myself, because what gets rewarded certainly gets repeated. And it is a case of, making sure that whatever in the jacuzzi, the steam or the sauna, if I do 45 minutes in the gym, I'm allowed 45 minutes in the spa.
Fair enough. Now we've got quite a few people in the audience now watching the show live, so thank you for joining us. Could I ask everybody in the audience actually to hit the tweet button and share the love amongst your Twitter followers? That would be really great. And also a reminder of our Facebook page. So if you go to facebook.com/Homeworkers Network, Marcus, would you put that link in the comments there, please, fella?
Sure.
Follow us on Facebook.
Does anyone want to jump on and tell us theirs?
Yeah, would love you to come and jump in the seat, and we'll be very friendly to you, I promise.
We won't bite sometimes.
We won't bite. But if you've got any comments that you'd like to make and tell us about your New Year's resolutions from the Homeworkers sense, that would be great. Now, Marcus.
Yeah.
Just talk us some more through some of the things, because you mentioned what your New Year's resolutions are, and some of the things that habit forming.
Yeah.
Just talk us through how that looks in your mind. What are the goals at the end of that? Where do you want to be with it?
Okay, so as I said at the beginning, for me, it's about, I've got a theme that I'm really trying to enforce this year. And for me, that's got to be firmly set in making sure, excuse me, that I look at sticking to what I'm good at. And I think that how that will raise its head is that when I'm challenged or asked to do things that I feel I'm not good at, that will dictate how I react to it. So that's going to help me with my time management straight away. When somebody asks me to do something that I don't want to do or find difficult to do or whatever, I'm going to be judging that on, hold on a minute, I've done this before. I know I like to be helpful. I know I want to be all things to all men, but actually, am I the best person to do that? So that's the first thing. So that's a time management thing. Julian talked a little bit about what sounded like a CRM type of view. And one of the things that you all heard me playing with on and off last year was Trello. It's funny, I've had conversations since. And we all again know that I'm into mind mapping. So I've got lots of little bits sorted, but what I don't have is a unified methodology yet for all of my talk of workflows that gives me so much confidence that I will be able to say, okay, I'm trying to get from here to here. I'm able to break things down. I'm able to look at how to manage things, but I'm struggling with putting things in a place that allows me to really walk from A to B consistently. To your point, Julian, about consistency. So I feel like the way that I'm going to do that is by using a productivity system that I am comfortable with, to my point about doing things that I want to do versus things that I don't want to do. So for example, that Evernote's just embedded in that. Mind mapping is embedded in that. I think I've got the go-to mind mapping software to now do that, so I'm good with that. I feel like Trello is the right way to go, and yet again, even yesterday, I found myself being drawn back into trying to plug things into that. So again,
you and I, I've seen you and I talk a lot on appearing and stuff. Because we have a mutual love of technology, and we both tried Trello together. We tried it. I just couldn't work it into my workflow. Evernote is a different matter, however, and Evernote I'm flying with now and absolutely love it. I saw you shared your screen with me the other day on the mind mapping and how that works. Actually, that's something that I might be able to use.
Yeah, you can see you can see how my head's working with what's going on, and then what you can do with that is you can do productive things with it. So here's the thing. With the mind map initially, build the view, build what you're going to do. But it's then, what do you do with that? And it's the same thing with New Year's resolution. So I've built this thing. What do I now do with this? How do I turn this thing into something that actually gets you to what you want to achieve? And for me, I feel like, it doesn't matter if it's Trello, it's just that that's what I'm using right now. I feel like that system that I find of being able to categorize it, lock it down and move it to the next stage will hopefully be something that will really help me. The mind mapping software that I use is called iThoughts HD. I cannot speak highly enough about this. Now, there's two ways to go with this. You can have free or not free, and there's good reasons for it. And I'll just take this one moment to explain this. Free, MindNode. MindNode. Again, it's an iOS piece of software. Beautiful, visual, colorful, easy to use, absolute easy. Once you've graduated from that, pretty easy to use and all the rest of it, you start wanting something that can speak to other solutions a lot more easily and stuff like that. That's where I am. And that is why iThoughts HD becomes that de facto solution for me. So at that stage that I'm at, I can build these views. I can then push them out to Word or push them out to PowerPoint and start to explain those things to other people or even get help. So when we were talking the other day and I was just throwing all these ideas together, we were looking at things, and I was able to show you visually the way I'm thinking about how these things link together. What I now need to do with that, for example, is extract that and put it into Trello, making a concise list of how I'm going to get to this top goal from the things below it. That's really how I function. And Julian, I know you've got some CRM issues in the back of your mind perhaps, but that view and how you then take, it doesn't matter what the solution is, as I say, but however you break down what it is you're trying to do and move that to the next stage. So long-winded way, Paul, sorry, of answering a question as to how I'm going to achieve these things. I just feel like it's not enough for me to now say, oh yeah, I want to get fit. Take it as read, I want to get fit, but how am I going to do that? What am I going to do? So for me, tech, the Fitbit, walking that 10,000 steps a day, really, and be mindful of that. And my top tip for today is one of the things that will help me to explain how I'm going to actually measure all of that. So I don't want to monopolize, but that's where I'm at.
Fair enough. And welcome back, Phil. And Julian, so you want to be organised.
Yeah.
How do you think you might achieve that?
Again, without stealing Marcus's thunder, so to speak, I think a lot of the things that he just said is how I'm going to be able to achieve it. I like the mind mapping side of things because, for me, again, because I'm an ideas guy and I firmly like to, I think one of my skill sets and ability is to actually think something right the way through to the end and back again and back through again. To find out, because we know every action there's a reaction and generally they're equal and opposite. So it is a case of doing that. So from my perspective, I need to be more structured and organized, and technology is playing that part. And I have to admit, Paul, what you said, there's a lot of tech out there, and believe you me, all this week, all I've done is just look and look and look and look and look. And I'm looking at, finding things, A, that's going to do what I need it to do, but B, to be intuitive enough for me to be able to use it and drop and click and plug and play rather than all of these different things. Now, one of the things that, again, and he's probably just cost me $8.99 again, Marcus, but mind mapping specifically in terms of email automation in looking at, when you start with your email in terms of marketing, what happens and what people do, where they go and how they go there's a call, look, I've been them. Where they go and how they get there is then there's they really don't want to go, these guys, is basically being able to then look at that and then being able to see where they go, how they go, and where they go after that. So for me, there's always I always want an end outcome that generally, hopefully, will be positive. So if somebody hasn't opened one of my emails and they haven't clicked one of my links, then I want to send them a little survey that says, what was the matter with my email? Why didn't you click my link? Is this something I've said? Don't you like us? If you don't like us, then we can do. So there's always something for me to be able to get an end result as to why there was. Well, everything's an outcome, if whether it's a positive outcome or a negative outcome. But again, that needs to be done through software and structure of what Marcus said, really.
Fair enough. And Phil, you're just about to move. You're in the process of moving, actually. I think as we speak, your wife's probably loading the truck up, right?
Oh yeah, I'm sat here talking to you guys, and she's doing all the work. How else would it be?
Absolutely.
That is a joke. Before everybody starts diving on and tweeting me and calling me a scumbag, that was a joke.
Not
for that anyway.
Not for that. Yeah.
You don't really do New Year's resolutions, but how do you think you might achieve your goals this year? I mean, you're quite a driven guy. I've seen some of the stuff that you put out on your video tips of the day and all that sort of stuff. You're a driven guy. You know where you want to go. You know what stage you're at. But how do you think you might achieve some of the things that you want to get done this year?
I got lazy in 2015. And the referrals were coming in. It was going nicely. I wasn't going to be a millionaire, but frankly, I got life balance was good, but I got lazy, and I know I got lazy. So this year, I'm going to go out a lot more and press the flesh. I'm going to have to, actually, because I was saying before about creating motivation. If I'm going to do this tweeting times and do it properly and build it into the next Huffington Post as a vision, then that's going to take a lot of graft, and a lot of that will be about going out there and really, really proactively talking to people, getting the content together and everything.
It's those things. I mean, I'm involved in a hyperlocal media blog, Facebook page, which is got a nice following. It takes a lot of time and commitment.
It does.
You can't, if you want something, it's like anything in life, Phil. If you want something to be successful, you've got to make it happen. You've got to be committed to it. The moment you take your foot off the pedal, you can watch you get the progression. Yeah. And then you take your foot off the pedal for a day or two, and then you end up back down there again. It can take you months to get back up there.
Hard to get back up once you've slowed things down.
That's it. I think the opportunity for this is greater, perhaps. Greater is not really the best word, but what I mean by that is that I started this before, so it's relaunched, not from scratch.
Right.
We've already got some, a bit of history. We've got a good story. I'm doing it with another company that I set it up with originally, who are big in graphic design, and they're ex-journalists and all that stuff. So they can do a lot of the stuff. So I'm not totally lone ranger on this, which helps, of course. And then we can keep each other motivated and everything else. But do you know what's really interesting? Very, very quickly, mate. What's very interesting about that is that the reason that the views of this online magazine went through the roof as it did, two things happened. Number one, we got a video interview with Stephen Fry, and he then tweeted,
right,
I'm in this new magazine, cool. And it went through the roof. And the second thing is we did an interview with a lady called Sarah Kaywood, who appeared on The Right Stuff on Channel 5, and unknown to me until I saw it pop up on the TV when I was sat there with my baby girl at the time, giving her a bottle or whatever, she suddenly started talking about how she'd been interviewed for this new online magazine. So, but what it means is that we live in an age where if you can be, number one, lucky, and number two, thinking on the lines of how can you get a monumental lift through a tweet from the right person who's already got the audience or the credibility, you can get from 0 to 100 miles an hour very quickly if it's easy, but if you can find those magic pixie dust moments that can take you there. That makes sense.
And Charlene's just put in the comments there, associate with an influencer to get known.
Exactly.
And the thing is that when you started the magazine in 2011, social media has moved much further forward than it was back then. So, you might not need Stephen Fry to get.
No.
I don't know how many followers he's got, but I would imagine it's several million. You've only got to get 20 odd people with a couple of 100,000 followers to achieve similar results. And,
exactly. Very true.
Yeah.
I think,
and of course now they're all, as I said earlier, Twitter was in its earliest stages.
Yeah.
Now, and I think that there's two key elements to it. Obviously, the number one is the content. The content has to be good quality and has to resonate and has to engage people and all that blah blah that we all know. But I think as well, I'm fortunate that I came up with that name because I think the name's a pretty good brand name.
I seem to remember it actually.
It's possible. It was quite. It did get a bit of PR, quite a bit of PR. I mean, I screwed up on it really. I mean, I'm going to hold my hands up. Loads of things happened. Say there was moving and marriage split up and stuff, but it really was going places, and I think it could have been Huffington Post by now. But stuff happens in life, and now is a good time, and we're going to do it.
You're an older and wiser man now, Phil. You know what we always say? Oh, if only I knew now what I knew then, and all this kind of
hindsight.
thing. I mean, yeah, I only need to look at my kids. They ask me some wonderful questions for 6 and 8 years old. It makes me really think.
I remember being at 18 years of age that I thought my father knew nothing, and when I was 21, he'd learned a lot in 3 years. That's the truth of the matter. Yeah. But I think the good thing about what you're saying, Phil, and Charlene is in the room. She's for me a perfect example of that. Is that you've got to be consistent, and that's one of the things that we're doing now. We're launching our conference at the end of the month, but we're going to be bringing through a weekly podcast, a weekly video, and a monthly video roundtable based in the sports and entertainment world. But I've got creative guys who want to be really creative. And I'm saying to them, stop. What we need to do is we need to be realistic in terms of what the deliverables are and then deliver that within each and every week. So if we're going to say we're going to do a podcast on Friday, then there's a podcast on Friday. If we're going to say there's going to be a video on Wednesday, there's a video on Wednesday. I don't want to say, right, we could do this and we could do that. And there's, we've missed the deadline. And you can't do it. So it's got to be, but the big thing for me in all of these things is the content, and consistency is the king. If you can provide free content that other people are charging for, you're winning. And that's the key thing to all of these things. If you can provide content that other people are charging for, you're going to win. And your free content, your free giveaways has to be of the level you'd expect somebody to pay for it. So that would be my advice to you. And I'm going through that whole process at the moment. And I can help.
Yeah, and the platform's available. The platform's available now, Phil, compared to 2011. So Julian mentioned podcasts there. It is all about content. Something that's my business basically, and it's never been easier to create content. In fact, the thing we all carry in our mobile, the things that we all carry in our pockets, is there's virtually everything you need on that iPhone or Android device or whatever it may be to create all the content you're ever going to need. And another thing that's happened, say, in the last 4 or 5 years that might not have been the case when you were, at the height of this thing in 2011, is that production quality is no longer as important as it used to be.
No.
Okay.
But it's interesting. Even then, Paul, the quality of video wasn't. Everything's HD now, isn't it? Everything's HD on this, that, the other. We're pretty clear. We're not very jerky and everything else.
It's not just
that's improved too.
Absolutely, it's not just that. Yeah, of course, the broadband infrastructure is much better. But the other thing is that the YouTube culture. One of the great things, and I've made a business out of it. One of the great things that the YouTube culture has done for us is that whole thing around production quality. That it is no longer important, and in fact, people, as we're doing now on this blab, operating in my spare bedroom and broadcasting live on the internet. It was possible to do that 4 years ago, but things have moved on so much more now, and it's becoming much more, not quite mainstream, but we're not far from it. We're not far from it at all.
And you know, the funny thing was as well, when you go back 25 years ago now, I think the film was Wayne's World. Everyone laughed at it.
Yeah.
But how much before their time was that video? It was more before his time, before Back to the Future. So
Absolutely.
when you look at that now and what you're doing, what you can do, the big thing for me though, going back to it again, is, and the keys for me to making things successful is your content is king, your consistency is king. But if you can, and I've said it a million times, you've probably heard me say it, is we're all drowning in information, but we're all starved of knowledge. So if you can provide knowledge rather than just information, and you get knowledge through experience and everything else that goes with that, that as long as you can provide knowledge and help people, and you know, people want to come onto podcasts and talk about the good things that they've done. I also want to come onto the podcast and tell them things that they didn't do right, because, you know, we all make mistakes and we're all learning all the time. And if I can find out that, you know, by putting this by here is wrong, and somebody's just, oh, Jesus, I never thought of that. Jesus, let's put it back over here, you know, and those sort of things. So again, you know, it's probably a show on its own, to be honest. But
I think you should buy a lovely ebook.
Yeah,
I'd like to see the ebook with the Julianisms in there. I would buy that tomorrow, I'm telling you.
Now, the jokes.
To be honest, the book would be a joke. Don't worry about it.
Now, I just want to move things along because we've only got 10 minutes left. And but before I do, I just want to reiterate a point that Charlene, again, very wise woman, made in the comments there. The smartphone is making live stream and YouTube mainstream. Absolutely spot on. Absolutely spot on. So a good quote, I think, to end that segment on. Now, we come to my favourite part of the show, which is Top Tech Tips.
You said it right as well. Fantastic.
Yeah, I said it right. I've had enough practice. Do you know we're at episode 11 now, which is incredible.
Can you just say it again? Because I'm going to put you under pressure to get it right.
Top Tech Tips.
Oh, it was all right.
Nearly. You put me on the spot there. So, Marcus.
That wobbled a bit.
It did wobble a bit.
I'm going to go last on this because I haven't actually decided what my top 10 tips going to be this month, this week. So, over to you, Marcus.
Well, this one I felt I needed to reiterate again, purely because, and it's not one that I've said much about a lot. I mentioned it probably in our Christmas show or the pre-show prior to that, but it plays on nicely for today. And for all of you who are joining us, thanks again for that. I am going to mention the iOS app called, and you'll like this, there are some people out there who are going to love this one. It's called Strides. It's the one with the 1 on it.
How much is it going to cost me, first of all?
I can't remember, but as with most apps, I don't actually care because it does what I need it to do.
Yeah.
Now, with Strides, what you do, basically, and I haven't played with this a lot, and by the way, it's actually free, but you can pay in order to unlock the ability to put things into categories, which I'm not interested in at the moment. I'm keeping it simple. You'll have noticed throughout the broadcast, my little friend, okay? And that is because Strides is reminding me that I have set myself a task of drinking at least 8 of these on a daily basis because I'm not drinking enough water, and I'm really conscious of that. And aside from that, there are other things. I mean, you could set up financial goals, you can set up whatever you like, but basically you tell Strides what you want to achieve, and it jumps in and reminds you periodically throughout your day to try and achieve that. And it measures in graphs and charts and all that loveliness to give you a chance to look at that. So I think everybody should check that out. Strides, as it sounds.
Okay. Brilliant. Okay, I like that. I'm going to check that out. Phil.
Okay, I'm converted. That is such a lovely dog.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
And what about the dog, Dichi?
Looks like Toto.
Yeah, beautiful.
And as soon as it wipes its own arse, then I'm really hooked.
You know the funny part is this is a puppet. It's not a real dog. That's why you can't see by the other hand.
It's a puppet.
Marcus, and I'm sorry, I've just woke him up, so he wasn't yawning because of your top tip. He was.
So for those listening to the podcast afterwards, the recording, the audio only, Julian has brought his dog onto the show. What was his name again?
His name is Reggie.
Reggie. Oh, go on then, Phil.
That is a cute dog.
Yeah.
That is a cute dog. Top tips. I'm going to basically, I'm just going to mention Snapchat, actually, because I do. You guys, I think, probably also keep an eye on the trends and such like. And I've been reading recently quite a lot about how Snapchat is becoming much more mainstream. you know, it was recognised as the 16-year-old, if that, kid in a bedroom type of social media, not for serious people or people with intelligence. And as we've said today and discussed a lot today, technology changes a lot, and the application and context of that technology changes a lot. And Snapchat seems to be becoming much more mainstream. And I'm certainly going to go get into it a lot more.
I've been using it over Christmas. I've got to say, I don't find it very intuitive, but
it's not easy to use. No. It's not. I agree. It's not easy to use.
I'm getting a lot of talk about Snapchat, and I've been avoiding it because it doesn't fit into my world, in my mind. But today, when I was watching a brief clip of a new movie coming out, it's interesting to me that I didn't spot the Twitters and the Facebooks and all the rest. I spotted the Snapchat symbols straight after that, and I thought, wow, you know, so people are really targeting their audience in the right way with that stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that, Phil.
So that's fine.
By the way, you can follow me on Snapchat at Dici. We should all start following each other.
I'll do that. Yeah, no, I'll do that. I'll find you on there. Yeah.
Julian, over to you.
I've pretty much touched upon it, but through my extensive search of trying to find a solution that will help my business, I've come across InTouch, which is a CRM, small business management workflow, everything solution, really. And it really is, at the moment, it seems to be ticking all the boxes of what I want to do, and it's massively intuitive. It's the email automation campaign. I've got an audited database of around about 17,000 sports and entertainment professionals on our database, and we were using Aweber. And if anybody is using Aweber, then I would say, yeah, it's okay. But it's so clunky, and it's what I like about certain things is when you get a piece of software that's been designed from the end user point of view, and you can always tell the piece of software has been designed from the software engineer point of view. There's generally a big difference between the design from the inside out, not the outside in. And that was for me Aweber. You got different lists, and you've got to populate the lists, and it's just a nightmare. So to send one, it just doesn't work. So I needed to find something else, and InTouch does. And the great thing about InTouch is that I've got a sales team in Australia. I can send an email out now to everyone in America that says, right, you click this link. If they click the link, it automatically triggers then a sales call, which gets sent to Australia in their activity. So I assign that to somebody in Australia. As soon as he's clicked on that link, it comes up that he's clicked the link. It goes straight into their tasks for the next day. They've got their call lists to call that people up and say, I've seen the email, you've clicked through the link, you haven't purchased. Is there anything I can do to help you with to get them over the line? So, and then when they say yes, they can then do that to put them back into another automation group. That means they get another. So it's just, that's why I need the mind mapping, because I need to be able to mind map and look at the automation for what goes where. But this piece of software, and 4 users, 100,000 emails for £99 a month. And
it's worth it for the email bit alone.
And they give you a two hour onboard data transition as well. So I'm getting all my stuff now out of Aweber, and I'm putting it all into InTouch. And it just, the contact system part of it, you know, there's a social part on there. There's honestly, you can store all of your documents. So if I want to send an email out to somebody and attach a document, I can just drag it from there. I don't have to. It is a fantastic piece of kit.
Right.
I've only been on it for 2 days, and I'm sure I'm going to find some issues as I keep digging down. But at the moment, on the face of it, it's fantastic.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for that, Julian. My top tip of the week is a completely free app. Because I've got to say, Marcus, I'm getting a bit fed up with you coming on here and costing me a fortune. Every time I speak to you, it costs me money. It cost me 30 quid. Not last night, the night before, although it was worth every bloody
penny. But I saved
you
40 gig on your bloody machine, did I not?
You did.
There you go.
You did. But no, my top tech tip this week is Google Snapseed.
Wow.
Okay. Now, it's an app. It's completely free. It's iOS and Android. It actually unusually started life as an Android app before iOS. Now, I'm a content creator. I'm what's called a mobile creative. So most of the content that I create is created on my mobile phone, or passes through my mobile phone in one way or another. And one of the comments that I get quite a lot on Instagram, whether it be from my clients or from just general followers, is how do I get the results that I get with my images on a mobile phone? Now, my secret source is actually an app called FilterStorm. And that is pretty much will do anything that Photoshop will do. It does the layers, the masks, all the Pro Tools. But when you're in a rush and I'm at an event and I want to get images done quickly and published quickly, Snapseed is my go-to app. It's absolutely fantastic. What I would suggest is that if you want to turn an ordinary looking image into a stunning image, then just invest a small amount of time into figuring it out, how it works, and the user interface. It's mostly slide and swipes and that type of thing, but it is an incredibly powerful app. One of the things that I'm really scared of is that Google will kill it off, because it did buy it, like a lot of these big time developers. They bought it from another small developer to integrate into Google Plus. I just hope they don't kill it off. They are still supporting it at the moment, but a fantastic app. So make sure that you check it out. That's Google Snapseed.
Thank you for that.
Top man.
All right. Cool. So we're going to pretty much end the show now because we've gone a minute over. Stick around for the after show. We've got quite a lot of people here watching the show live. So stick around. If you've got any questions for us, we'll still be here to answer them for you. Although I think Phil might have to get off because he's got to pack. So thank you for joining us. Another great Homeworkers Network, and we will be back at the same time next week. Check out our Facebook page at facebook.com/Homeworkers Network. The recording of this show will be on our podcast channel, again, Homework Network, and it will be on our YouTube channel, again, Homeworkers Network. So thank you very much.